This is wrestling's greatest moments.
Hey now, wrestling fans! Professional wrestling has had its fair share of superheroes, but nothing like the story we're about to unveil. Sit back as Wrestling's Greatest Moments looks at the untold legend of the Batman. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. Professional wrestlers often portray larger-than-life heroes and villains, one of wrestling's biggest charms. However, do you know about the wrestler who donned the cape and cowl to fight heels as the Batman? Just as the 1981 comic book miniseries, The Untold Legend of the Batman explored the Dark Knight's history, we'll explore the mysteries of the man who worked as Batman, including whether he teamed with Robin, how successful the character was, and whether the Batman was the career highlight of the wrestler underneath the mask. The 3 Bs of the 1960s. Conventional wisdom has it that the 3 biggest cultural phenomena of the 1960s were Bond, as in Bond, James Bond, the Beatles, and Batman. Although Wrestling's Greatest Moments hasn't uncovered any examples of 007 or the Beatles in wrestling, although we really haven't looked, fans who grew up in the late 1960s may remember a wrestler called the Batman. Fans browsing online may also have seen pictures of him and wondered whether they'd stepped into the Twilight Zone. Pro wrestling has always tapped into pop culture and archetypes, whether it's hippie wrestlers, the Love Brothers, Mad Max-based wrestlers such as Lord Humongous and the Road Warriors, Elvis impersonator the Honky Tonk Man, monsters such as The Undertaker and Papa Shango, wild savages like Kamala and the Wild Samoans, Mortal Kombat-inspired characters Glacier, Mortis, and Wrath, or super patriots like Sergeant Slaughter and Hacksaw Jim Duggan. That being said, it's no surprise that someone created a wrestling version of the popular superhero Batman. In 1966, Batmania was sweeping the nation as fans couldn't get enough of ABC's live-action Batman show. The ultra-campy show featured some of Hollywood's top stars, guest starring as Batman and Robin's guest villains, and it quickly became a pop sensation thanks to a presentation that appealed to young viewers for its iconic and colorful characters, and appealed to adults due to its campy presentation. Wrestling being wrestling, a familiar-looking gent named Batman began competing. There's no record of any litigation against Batman, perhaps because of the extra T in his name, but more likely because the character wasn't making a big enough splash to catch the attention of 20th Century Fox or national periodical publications, the future DC Comics. However, who played the Gotham Guardian, and was he a flash in the pan? The many mysteries behind the Masked Manhunter. Cracking the behind-scenes working of professional wrestling is a challenging task that would tax the mind of even the world's greatest detective, particularly from the kayfabe era when wrestlers and promoters guarded wrestling secrets like superheroes guard their secret identities. Nevertheless, there appears to be enough evidence to get a rough idea of when Batman debuted, whether he teamed with Robin, and how successful Batman was as a wrestler. Journeyman wrestler Tony Marino played Batman. Marino began competing in the 1950s, working in NWA territories and Maple Leaf Wrestling, and enjoying moderate success, including singles and tag team titles. Marino boasted a powerful physique, and historian Dave Meltzer writes in his obituary of Marino, Marino wrestled full-time through 1977, usually as a top babyface star from the mid-60s on. At some point, Marino donned the Batman outfit, but it's unclear when and where the character officially debuted. There are also conflicting reports that at least one wrestler besides Marino portrayed the character. Let's look at the records we have. CageMatch.net lists Batman's first match as February 1st, 1966. Batman, working with 1 T instead of 2, teamed with Gorilla Monsoon in a losing effort to Jack Lanza and Alberto Torres. This match occurred weeks after the Batman TV series premiered in January 1966. Interestingly, Batman's next match was on April 7, 1966, where he defeated Mr. X in the Detroit-based big-time wrestling promotion, aka NWA Detroit. While this may seem trivial, the dates tie in with the belief that at least one other wrestler briefly played Batman. Tom LeTurgey writes, "It's been noted by historian, manager, and wrestling personality Supermouth Dave Drayson that the Batman used by the Sheik for 2 shows in 1966 Detroit was not Marino." As LeTurgey notes, Marino was working elsewhere that night, and wrestler Leo Burke may have donned the mask. However, Marino quickly became the Batman. Marino also briefly played a wrestler named the Cape Crusader in Maple Leaf Wrestling, beginning on April 17, 1966. According to the article, The Legend of Battman, Marino was competing at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto when Bruno Sammartino, who was friends with Marino, saw him working his Batman gimmick. Apparently under the Cape Crusader name, Sammartino invited Marino to work for his Pittsburgh-based promotion as Batman. The Batman character became a local sensation. According to the aforementioned article, for many fans of Pittsburgh studio wrestling, Tony Marino's Batman was a pretty big deal. The article discusses the fanfare that surrounded wrestling's dark night. There was even a video of Marino's Batman driving to the Civic Arena in an Adam West version of the Batmobile, all with a TV show theme. Regrettably, Bruno never kept recordings from the weekly studio wrestling show. In his memoir, Bruno Sammartino writes of his regrets in not keeping the tapes. We had a weekly wrestling program that aired live called Studio Wrestling. At the time, we didn't film it and retain the film, which is too bad, because it would have been worth a lot of money today to the WWE Network. However, Marino's Batman character attained immortality thanks to an appearance in Wrestling Review magazine, complete with Robin the Boy Wonder. Interestingly, Batman and Robin aren't mentioned by name on the cover, but instead as the deadly duo menaces mad villains, possibly a lawyer-friendly way to describe them on the cover of a national magazine. The Robin Riddle. The article features several photos of the dynamic duo in action, which probably boosted Marino's character. However, it also caused confusion among fans and historians about whether Batman teamed with Robin and who played a sidekick. Depending on who you ask, Batman worked alone. As mentioned, wrestling records can be spotty, but there is evidence that Batman worked in at least 2 tag team matches with Robin. The real mystery is who played Robin. For many years, it was believed that wrestler John Fote played him. In a display of detection that would dazzle the Dark Knight detective, Tom LeTurgey pieced together the puzzle of who played Robin, that Marino's childhood friend, Alex Macaluso, played Robin. The friends would drive from Rochester to Toronto and Hamilton, Ontario for television tapings, and their only 2 matches as the dynamic duo. The article notes that Macaluso didn't stay in wrestling long, but his run as Robin was enough to leave an impression. Is this the end of the Cape Crusader? Although the Batman TV series ended in 1968, Marino milked the character for several years, which suggests he was doing more than cashing in on a fad. Although some reports state Batman disappeared in 1970, CageMatch.net lists him wrestling up to February 1972 in a double disqualification against George Steele. Marino also maintained a dual identity in the WWWF and Bruno Sammartino's Pittsburgh-based promotion. Working as Tony Marino, he captured the WWWF International Tag Team Championship with Victor Rivera. However, he also held the same belt with Bruno Sammartino in Pittsburgh in his Batman identity. This situation would probably have fit perfectly into a Silver Age comic book. Furthermore, Marino continued wrestling afterward, enjoying success as Tony Marino. Marino held several titles in NWA Detroit, including numerous runs with the promotion's version of the NWA World Tag Team Championship and even the area's version of the United States Heavyweight Championship, defeating top star The Sheik for the title. As Marino's career progressed, he began putting over opponents more frequently. He later donned a mask, working as Devil Blue, not to be confused with DC Comics hero Blue Devil. However, it would be inaccurate to classify his entire career as enhancement talent. As we've seen, there was much more to his wrestling career than his time under the cowl. Lastly, Marino's granddaughter would continue the family tradition, working as wrestler Lady Frost. Did you know the story of Batman? Did you ever see him wrestle, either as the Cape Crusader or as Tony Marino? Share your thoughts in the comment section and let us know if there's any videos you'd like Wrestling's Greatest Moments to cover. In the meantime, subscribe to our channel, follow us on X and Instagram, and spread the good news about Wrestling's Greatest Moments, the channel that celebrates the squared circle.